Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren. We meet here every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern to talk about everything Zoom and beyond. It can be Zoom only. It can be production related, which adds additional tools around Zoom. But we dig in. Today is about the only time we ever bring up documents. And beyond that, we normally just work on identifying and becoming familiar with behaviors of Zoom, being prepared for them, and being able to better manage our meetings. But today in particular, we're going to include, but we're not limited to, taking a look at the release notes of version 5.10.13, as we always do, so that we're aware of what's changed, what's new, what's been fixed, and so forth. So welcome. It's good to see everybody as folks continue to roll in, and I'll just say hi to a few as I take a look at my gallery and, in fact, start the cloud record. Here we go. All right. Very good. Well, Ray, welcome.
Good to see you. I can see you pretty good with one eye. I just had cataract surgery in the other eye, so I may be a little slow today, but I'm with it. Looking forward to it. Lots of changes.
Always glad to have you here. Frank, you're next on my screen. How you doing, Frank? And
good, thanks.
Very good. And TJ out of Minneapolis, how are you?
Doing well this afternoon, sir. And yourself?
Doing good. Doing good. Spring is starting to show itself a little bit around the Midwest. I'm in the Kansas City area, and it's kind of nice. Tulips are
yeah. Well, we're into that gray season where it's just it's not white and it's not green.
Earlier this week, I was up in South Dakota, Sioux Falls, and I left there Wednesday afternoon to come back home, and it was 27 degrees there, and as I got home, it got warmer and warmer, and it was like 52, when I got here, and it was just kind of crazy how, not that 27 is the end of the world. 27 is not bad, but when you wake up in the morning, it's not 27, it's like 16, and they have a lot of snow on the ground. They haven't had any temperatures to break it, and so just piles. I mean, you can't even hardly see mailboxes in front of people's houses because everything's all, pushed off to the side and piled up and so forth. So, but I think it's all starting to come to an end and be ready for spring. David Paskin, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
Very good. Anything new in your world? Yeah, expert on social stream now.
Hardly an expert, but I am getting a kick out of it.
Yeah,
let's see if I can. Can I get it going now? Hold on a second. It should pop up on my screen. Social stream. There it is.
Whoever wants to contribute to pop in a chat message or something, you'll see it pop up on David's video screen. But yeah, it extracts. So your setup is you come at us. We have the vanilla client connected, the vanilla Zoom client connected, right? And also ZoomISO client, or is that one and the same?
No, so I'm in 3 different times. I'm in with the vanilla client ZoomISO, and I had downloaded I grabbed the new beta of sorry, not ISO, OSC, but it wasn't logging in for me. So I'm back on the release of OSC, and then I'm also in on the client on the browser for the social stream.
Yeah,
because that only works in the browser.
Yep, good stuff.
Is the social stream popping up under your name? Because if that's where it is, it's hard to see because the Zoom name tag is obscuring it for me.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. Here, let's spotlight David. You're muted right now.
I could move it if I wanted to.
A little bit bigger, but yeah, it's adjustable and colorable and so forth. But yeah, it covers up just a little bit of it. But James, you're next on my screen. How are you, sir?
But first in your hearts, right? Anyways, yes, I'm along with TJ in Minneapolis, so maybe I should have put Minneapolis there. If you want me to, I can.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, it gives us an idea. We kind of come from all over, and we got Canada represented, Minneapolis represented. We got Florida with David and Ray. Betsy, you're back east as well, are you not? Yeah.
Yep, New Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey. Very good. New York with Bobby. I don't see Bobby, but I know he's here. And Pete, he's out in Maine, right?
Yep, and we're getting some sort of snow, a lot of it tomorrow morning at 1 a.m. So just a note, Jeff, the password on the email I got did not work today. That Zoom sent me. The link did work. That's how I got here.
So the lowercase letter Z.
I know that one, but there was another passcode that Zoom sent in here, but with a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, Zoom wouldn't have sent anything.
Or using ID?
Zoom video communications email I got. I'll forward it to you.
Yeah.
You can only have one passcode for a meeting, unless you're on a phone.
Yeah, I'll take a look. But nothing unusual on my side. I'll see what you got as a result. And Betsy, what are you seeing? You're raising your hand there.
Yeah, I said it, and I know Pete's going to forward it to you, but I see the confirmation. I registered right as you had started, so I got the join meeting in progress. Yeah. But then I also get the backup email, and it shows your recurring, and then your passcode Z Kitchen, and then below it shows to keep this meeting secure, join via audio. And then it gives the mobile dial in, and then the meeting ID, and then the passcode in digits, in numbers. And the meeting ID is the same as this one, but it is a different passcode. So I raised my hand because it's exactly what. It's fast for people on the phone.
Yeah. For mobile devices. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess maybe, I don't know, Pete, if that's the number you see, 363-05-187.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's if you're going to pick up your phone and dial your way into the meeting. And so they do provide a separate passcode for the phone device, so it's all numbers versus trying to translate letters and so forth. But Very good. All right. Well, Betsy didn't get a chance to formally say hello and welcome.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing good. I had the a benefit of getting together with Pete and Tamra a few days ago, because I had said last time I was wanting to satisfy my urge to test all things dual monitors. And in the chat, they were up for it. So we got together and chatted a bit. That's always nice to do. Get to know you all on a different level and solve the dual monitor thing for my audience, which was great. That Mac differs from PC and how you use that little dual monitor setting. So without this group, I wouldn't have gotten to that point. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. No, it's a friendly group. So yeah, and certainly invite. And we talked about it last week. We have a pop-up meeting channel if in our Discord that you know, if you want to do that and share the meeting and invite others, you know, kind of spur the moment or in the next couple hours or whatever, to post the meeting info there and see who has the time to respond and so forth. So certainly encourage meetings outside the Zoom Test Kitchen schedule for sure. That's what's so helpful. It's why I created the Zoom Test Kitchen so long ago. It's like you need people, you know, for feedback and experience and testing and knowledge and the whole bit. So it's good stuff. Pete, hello. We've chatted just a little bit already, but a formal hello and welcome. And Lois as well, representing Davis, California. And
don't forget California.
That's right. Yeah. And Mike Lotta. Hello, Mike, from Ontario, is it? Yep. And Tony Mobley, I believe, is representing Georgia. Got it.
What's with the injured paw there, Tony?
Got a wrap around there.
I fell a couple of weeks ago, and most of you probably don't know. I walk with a cane, and I jammed the cane into my hand, and then I fell on the hand that I jammed the cane into, and so got it x-rayed and all of that. So it's just a bad sprain. So hopefully doing a lot better with it. So almost back to normal.
Thanks.
Very good. Glad you're doing okay. I had a fall. I haven't fallen in ever. Not ever, but I let the old doggy out, little corgi girl, and she was really nervous and had just this really thin and wet layer of ice on the back deck, and she was nervous going down the stairs, and she went down the big flight, but she wouldn't go down the last three. It's like, okay, so I'll hold on and help go down there and encourage her. And boy, I bounced down 6 of the steps and ended up kicking the railing out, which was at the bottom. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it hurts. Sky Gleason. Outside already, bearing the cool but beautiful temperatures. I remember you being outside a lot when I was first getting to know you. How are you?
And I'm sharing the sunshine blessing of John and Bobby Idleson's home.
Oh, very good.
Was able to work in San Francisco this past week, and I gave myself an extra day and asked if I could come say hello to the John and Bobby, and they said yes. So I looked up, saw what time it was, and I don't get to be on the Zoom kitchen experience, so I thought I'd just come in and say hi.
Well, good stuff. Welcome. Glad to have you here with us. And you're representing, when you say those names, John and Bobby in Monterey, California, right? And so good stuff. And let's see, make sure we don't miss anybody. Tamra, welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen.
Hello.
And we've got some that are off camera, but we'll say hi to Bobby and Mark and Jeremy, who's often on, but monitoring. Yeah, there he is. Sometimes driving, and sure enough, he's in his vehicle. So always glad you can join us as well, Jeremy. Well, very good. How many of you got a chance to install the latest version of Zoom? Yeah.
Just did that 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it a little while ago, but quite honestly, I got the invitation out there for today's meeting, but and so I listed some of the items on the release notes, but I haven't had a chance to really get my hands on them yet. So we will be doing that on the fly and having fun with that. Any comments from anybody before we get started on that, as far as features you see that have been released, or you've touched on, or you've been waiting for, or anything in particular to take note of? That would be a big no. Okay.
I would later, when we get time, I would like to report a wonderful new thing I just learned, which is very useful. It'll take about 2 minutes.
Great. Perfect. Frank.
Hi. I posted in the Discord, but I'll just mention it again. There's a new ability in Zoom to do network connectivity testing, and you can export it and send it as a report if you're looking for Zoom support. But pretty interesting built-in tool.
Do you up to showing it off for us?
I think so. I have to remember the keystrokes. I think it's Option Command Shift D. Option Command Shift D. Nope. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Didn't pop up.
And is it Zoom that responds to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom's built in a little, I guess, reporting tool that collects your network traffic, and you can even specify specific Zoom servers, and then you can export it and send it along to Zoom if you're having weird connectivity issues.
What's the formal name? Zoom connectivity. What do they call it exactly?
It's on Windows, it's Control Alt Shift D. On Mac, it's Command Option Shift D.
Command Option Shift
Control
D.
Alt Shift D. I'm not getting any.
So I pulled mine up. I can show you mine if you want.
Yeah, do that. Thanks.
You said you posted in the chat?
In the Discord.
In the Discord.
In the new features section of Zoom Test Kitchen Discord.
Thank you.
So you can see it working down here. So it's giving me my network information. Oops. IP address is active, name of my computer. No issue, no issue. It's not really giving me much here. Oh, here we go. Wow, you can really kind of dig into, I don't know what any of this stuff means, but export log.
There's a start test button you have to
No, I already did that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was fumbling trying to get mine started.
So that's the network test. Let's do the MTR test as a close it to start MTR and connection test. All right. Enter the domain name or IP address of the host used for MTR diagnosis. I don't even know what MTR is. Oh, it's here. I don't know what any of it means, but it's here.
I think Zoom support would probably ask you to run this.
Right.
And then send them the logs, right?
Right. Yeah, exporting is nice and easy. There's an export button on pretty much every page here. Export log, export memory log.
Normally, I quite often would ask people to go to somewhere like fast.com and tell me their upload, download, and latency to try to see what's going on with their network. But it's nice that Zoom's built one in dedicated to Zoom activities.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say too, is it's dedicated to Zoom, not, I mean, it can talk about what is around it, but it starts at it from its own perspective, which is essential. Very good. Lois, were you going to say something there? Guess not. Mike, what you got?
Yeah. So what I noticed is that if that keystroke does not work, you can actually modify it. If you go into the settings on Windows, if you go into the settings, and you'll see towards the very bottom, right after statistics, there's that infamous word again, and you got your keyboard shortcuts. You can actually go in there. If that keystroke that they put in there by default does not work, you can actually change it to whatever you want.
So you're saying keyboard shortcuts under the Zoom settings.
Yep.
Right.
And keep scrolling and you will see it. Where was it again?
Yeah, it's down there, almost to the, I can go all the way to the bottom when it stops, and that option ends up kind of on the top of the list. Control Alt Shift D.
That for hosts only?
No.
Not doing anything.
Yeah, and if you do try to put in something that Zoom has already got allocated, it'll tell you. You can't.
Gotcha.
I just did that.
Well, I changed it, but it's still not working. So yeah, we'll get there. I like it. I'll have to dig into that and see what all it's providing us and how it can become useful while I'm troubleshooting or helping somebody troubleshoot and so forth. So love it. Very good. James, you have your hand up.
Well, I was just going to say, because they, as I was looking for this, so thank you very much for just showing me the keystroke, and it worked for me. And I think this would be a great add-in, to send logs to someone else. So I was kind of reflecting on what you're saying. So.
Agreed. All right. Someone else had their hand, but now it's not up. So, well, let's take a look here. Do a little screen sharing. To the release notes. Ray, is that big enough? Might be a little too big. Does that work?
You're getting so good, Jeff.
All right. Here we go. That's my settings. There's the notes. All right. So to first, just as a quick reminder, Zoom release notes, Google it, and, usually the top hit will get you really close to where you want to be when you want to see these, because it normally provides more detail. Like when you do the update, it shows you, a short list, but it's very abbreviated without the added description and so forth. So February 27th, 5.13.10, this releases by product. So this is the Windows client in particular. But first thing they list here is Breakout Rooms 100 is now enabled for all accounts. They had announced this a few weeks back, but now it looks quite official. With each breakout room with a maximum capacity of 1,000, which means it's the same as the meeting. The meeting max capacity is 1,000. You could create one breakout room and everybody could move to that breakout room. If you create two, technically they still have the capacity of 1,000. So 700 could go into one, but the other 3 into the other and so forth. So, and then the limit, they make a note there, depending on the account limits, it doesn't supersede what your license allows. So if you can only, host 100 folks, then that's going to remain your limit. And but if you are up in the 500 or further capacity, then you can get there as well. Anyways, says previously this increased breakout room capacity required by Zoom required Zoom enablement, which is their notice like, yeah, you had to write them a support ticket and request that they increase your breakout room capacity from the original 50 to 100, but you don't have to make that request any longer, is their point. Anybody been there, deal with that? I've put in the request in the past on a few different accounts, and it's always been quite painless to do. And then once it is turned on, it's turned on for your account as a whole. Any meeting that you host moving forward has that capacity of 100 breakout rooms. All right. With this, it says Activity Center. Notifications for cloud recordings and transcripts, missed phone and video, received voicemails, SMS messages, and whiteboards will all be consolidated into the Activity Center. Users can now view notifications, mark them as read or unread, filter, display, and control which activities provide a notification. This feature is dependent on a backend server update currently scheduled for March 5th. So that's happening in 2 days. So I think what they're saying in short is our clients, if you're on 5.10.13, are now capable of supporting this. And then on the 5th, the backend servers will be updated to provide it as they've described. And then, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I'm just wondering on this one, since it's talking about maybe it's kind of the phone features, and if you actually are subscribed to the phone part, because I know, like, being at the university, we don't have a lot of these enabled, so I'm not even sure how that would look.
Yeah, their platform is wide these days for sure. So I would be in the same boat on the phone piece. But it also said cloud notifications and transcripts, along with items that are phone related, and then onto whiteboards. So I have to see, I think there's probably a little bit of something there for everybody, but we'll see how that looks maybe next week after the 5th has passed and we've had some time to take a look at it. The Zoom network connectivity tool, which we were looking at there, allows you to run a series of tests on their network connection, providing insights into issues they may be experiencing. Exporting those logs can be provided to Zoom support for the more severe situations and so forth. So that should be good. Nice addition. And
Hey, Jeff,
yeah,
is that the thing with all the statistics? Is that something that has always been available at the higher end, and now they're making it available low, or is it something that only Zoom did and now we can do it too?
well, we've had our statistics panel. So if I drag this over here, and we've always had this statistic, as far as bandwidth and how the network's connected, audio, video, screen sharing, and so forth. But it's not really, it doesn't dig in deep enough to be like a network troubleshooting tool. And I think that's what these new utilities are going to help a lot with. I think they've had a lot of that information, behind the scenes. Frank, maybe I know you have access to the dashboard. The dashboard has shown a lot of information for each user, during a meeting and after a meeting and so forth, how they're connected and did they have issues and what were they and so forth. So I think they've, brought it together.
Zoom's employees who do support have way more metrics than even Zoom admins on accounts do. And then they now have the new Zoom health dashboard for local Zoom admins, like for account admins. They have a health dashboard as well, but Zoom employees have way more metrics than we do.
Yeah, I have lunch every once in a while with a couple of employees here in town, and they almost speak a different language, like referring to things inside, their data centers and tools and so forth that I've never heard of until I've heard it from them. And often I have to pause and go, what is that? But there's a lot of things going on in the back end that they use in reference to troubleshoot and so forth. So, all right. Anytime you see an entry, additional MSI plist for Windows, admin installs on Macs and Windows, global policies in Windows as well, and MDM for the mobile device management. So these are specific options that have been added for them. And then we get down to meeting and webinar features. This one says, I turned on watermarking today before I launched the meeting. Can you see that in the share? I'm not seeing it. Wonder. Yeah, I had turned it on, but I did it quite a while ago, and it was really quite obvious, but I'm not seeing that it's quite so obvious now. I have a white background. Let's see if
you can set the opacity of it. Maybe you set it to 0 or something.
No, well, it was at 15%, and so maybe that's too light. Not sure, but yeah, I'm not really seeing anything visually indicative of it on the share. I think I did it just to the shares, not our videos. The first time I turned it on, I said put it on our videos as well, and that was like, oh my gosh, don't do that again. But custom on demand first for the watermark. The host of a meeting or webinar can enable or disable the watermark as needed during the live session. And this must be allowed by admins and can be controlled at the account group or user level settings behind the scenes in the portal. And it must be enabled by Zoom. No, maybe on demand is separate than the watermark I have. I'll have to jump on the phone with support and see. Maybe that's a part of it. And then meeting custom watermark location. Meeting hosts can choose where the watermark will appear, helping them avoid locations that distract or obscure the presenter or presentation. And this feature must be enabled as well. So yeah, maybe a couple things to check on. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, because when you have intellectual property that needs to be protected and so forth, there's definitely, some use for watermarking your shares. Maybe not your video, but in some cases possibly, but especially when you're sharing documents and so forth. Cloud recording support for sign language. And gonna glance over here. I don't think Robert is our translation attendee, but he's not here, but I would imagine, and I know he does a lot of languages, and I would imagine he does sign language as well. But
checked in on YouTube. He's on a plane. He says sends his regards.
Oh, very
He's
good.
leaving Montreal now, headed back to
Poland. Yeah.
I've had a lot of conversations with Zoom about this. I had a ticket open for a year about this, and very happy to see that it records it for education or other people. Imagine that the host of the meeting records the meeting and you need sign language, and they've had the sign language ability for a while now, but we couldn't record the interpreters. So if you didn't attend the meeting live, you were out of luck. So being able to record the sign language is really useful for people who need it.
Yeah, and does it do it as an ISO or as a kind of a picture-in-picture?
I think it's going to be an ISO, and it's going to be cloud recorded. You know, when you set up your cloud recordings, all the different options you get, I think it'll be one of them, right? I don't know though, because it doesn't turn on until March the 12th, so we're not there yet. So I haven't actually experienced the recording aspect of it.
Good. Yeah, I'm gonna enable American Sign Language video. And Ray, are you you're adminning. TJ, if I I'll designate you our sign language interpreter just for a few minutes so that I can go back on the cloud recording and kind of see what the results end up, if you don't mind. And this should did you get a message there? I don't know if you can, well, you can probably hear me, but I may not be able to hear you at this point. Do you guys see a pop-up window?
You have to turn it on in the toolbar. You'll see a notification.
Oh, I see. So yeah, that configured it and then minimized it, and now I can go and check mark it.
Oh, it looks like you can chat with the interpreter too. Hold on, I'm going to try that.
So manage it. Update, make changes. Yes, I can make changes on the fly.
So TJ, I just chatted you. So the sign language window has a little 3 blue dots that lets you immediately chat, but I think that'd be distracting for the interpreter if they're trying to interpret. Yeah, chatting them up, right?
Now I can still direct message TJ in the chat as well. I'm assuming that's what the 3 dots do. Allow to. Oh, I can as the host. You can talk now.
No, you unmuted me. And what I see on my end is a small box labeled American Sign Language, says that I'm on air, and the box is resizable.
Yeah.
And I can chat with him also.
Yeah. So as an admin, the options 3-dot button, there was a choice to mute or unmute, but there was also another choice initially to allow him to talk. And that's what unmuted him. And now I can disable that now as well. I can stop the video, chat, pen, spotlight. I can make him a host and a co-host even while he's that interpreter. But yeah, he's in a floating window. And so folks that, if they have very little interest in the main program window, right, and more interest in the signer, I like the option because, so often I see, these small picture-in-pictures of signers and I go, God, it doesn't just seem so secondary, if you will. And so there's different ways to work around that. But this implementation, put it where you want it, size it the way you want it. I mean, yeah, a lot of flexibility for each and every individual user. So I like.
Oh, it is interesting. It's only 16 by 9. I can't resize. I can't reshape the window.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does lock its ratio, it appears.
So, and I guess if my daughter was here, she could actually do this, but I don't know how much, if a square is better than a
it's not
a 16 by 9 for this or not.
Wider is better because
wider is better.
People are expressive and you want their hands in the shot so that nobody misses anything. 4 by 3 would be worse.
So it's probably back almost more space like this.
There are guidelines for video production for recording and framing sign interpreters.
Yeah, I've got a friend. I've asked him in the past if he'd be willing to come on. He has agreed that he would. Who works at the sign language school here in town, and he's a teacher and does freelance signing. He's done some signing for me on certain projects, and super good. So might be worth having him come in and just explain, get us familiar with the needs, and some things are full on requirements. I mean, there are a lot of kind of hard guidelines as well, but for lots in the accessibility space, and sign language being one of them. So, well, very good. Thanks, TJ, for letting me throw you out there.
I know for one thing that my background is totally inappropriate for it. It's got to be solid, and I believe black.
Yeah, well, not, I mean, solid is good. I don't know about the hard written requirements. I've never had anybody,
I think you want a good contrast ratio between the skin tone and like if you had a pale background, the hands wouldn't stand out as much, and so there are guidelines for that sort of thing.
I know I do it locally for our church out to, when I broadcast, there's probably about 4,500 viewers, but when our church headquarters broadcast, they do, I don't even know, 80 different languages. It's crazy. I don't know how they pull it all off, but they include sign as well, but they have the signer in front of a green screen, and then they in the virtual portion of that room, if you will, is a fake TV, right? So a TV frame that they can, place and size and all that, and then they inject the primary program. So the primary program is a bit secondary to this almost full height signer, and so it's super well balanced and clear and so forth. It's really, really clean. I can't do it because the signer is in the chapel with everybody else, so having a green screen in the chapel would just be super distracting. But I do really like the way they do it. All right, here, let me shut that off, TJ. There we go. All right, back to normal. Next,
did not change for me, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Right, so I just wanted to make this point, is that each person has to go down to that interpretation thing in the menu and turn it on themselves so that they see it. And that's why when you turned it off, Jeff, you thought you turned it off for everyone. Everyone else just, once you turned it on, the setting to set TJ, he's now there. Like I opened him up.
Yeah. My first step was to close my kind of local view of it, and now I'm actually going to end it. And I at that point, it's turned off throughout the system.
And the thing does say that it creates, this separate ISO record for it. It's not actually on yet in terms of the recording, so you won't get that recording today. That's a kind of future step for them to turn the recording on, but I think it's a great first step.
Yeah, it says March 12th on the back end. So
the reason this was desired was that you had to explain to the host of the meeting, if they didn't already know, that they had to spotlight or pin, if depending whether they did a cloud recording or a self-recording, they would have to spotlight or pin the signers, and usually interpreters work in pairs so that they can spell each other off. And it was a very cumbersome workflow to before they created this tool or feature to record signers in your Zoom meetings. And if your user who was the host didn't know a lot about spotlighting and pinning and keep all of that, working during the show, you could lose the spotlights.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, because we had gotten requests on this from kind of like sign language interpreters and how they actually have used things, is the clients that need the sign language, they don't want a small little window or even this. They want to take up as much of the screen as they want. This allows them to do that and make the rest of it small so that they can see what's going on. So this is
so with that I'm going to add a second. So James, I'm going to add you as a second assigned sign interpreter. So TJ is and James now is as well, both designated as sign language interpreters. And I'm going to click on start there. And so if you want to see this, you can now, everybody can go down and get it turned on, if you will. So TJ was first in my list, and he was remembered, even though I had shut it off completely when I turned it back on, or when I brought the configuration window back up, it remembered that TJ had previously been assigned. So I just added James to it as well. So now I believe if I go on this one, I can't go side by side, but I believe both of their videos are now not present in the gallery. Correct. Take a look. So the audience won't see double, if you will, that they're signed, and they only appear. So now TJ, you're the signer.
You're sharing, so we can actually see gallery.
Oh, well, if you, did you, yeah, on mine, I have side by side, so I can see the share and the gallery, but if I drop the share for a moment, there you go. So you shouldn't see them in gallery. And try to cure something on one of my machines here.
It's working the way you're describing.
Okay, good. And so TJ is there now. Signers, they all probably have their own schedule, but most of the signers I work with run on like 20-minute cycles, and they bounce over to, you know, the secondary signer and then back and forth. But that timing will vary based on the team and I'm sure their maturity and, you know, how long they can take it. It's a totally difficult job. But TJ, let's say you're done. And so, but you know, you have a partner, and I believe all you have to do is turn your camera off, mute it on the Zoom, and we'll see James pop up. Yep. So now James is the active interpreter. And so you guys, you two signers behind the scenes can you see each other at the same time? Yeah. Yeah, that's the other part. So whether it's back-end comms or texting or you've worked together a lot, and you know, you'll give some, I've heard visual cues are really difficult to fit in and not miss and so forth, but some kind of indication or whatnot where you jump in and go. So now, James, you're finished, and go ahead and mute your camera. And it goes back to TJ. And did it turn your camera on as well? We saw your profile picture for a moment. I'm going to allow you to talk again here. Sorry about that. So it went back to you. You should be able to unmute now.
When James turned his camera off, my camera was off, and so it went to my profile, and then I just switched on. But
Okay, so
I manually switched on.
Yeah, so you manually switched on. So that would be part of that back end, you know, synchronization and protocol that you guys established with each other that says, okay, you know, 60 seconds, we'll find a cue point. You turn, because you can turn on your camera. You know, if I, let's do it again. TJ, go ahead and turn your camera off so it switches to James.
So I'm back in the gallery, I see as well, just as an FYI.
I don't think oh yeah, I do see your profile. Yeah. Yep. And so you turned your camera off, James came back up. Now let's say you've agreed, okay, it's about time to switch back. So TJ, if you turn your camera on, in preparation, that's
I just override them.
Yeah.
I override them.
Yep, it just jumps on. So it's not a readiness call. That's your switch. When you're going to make the switch, turn your camera on and it'll make that switch and you'll be good to go. Last time we saw your profile picture momentarily till you turned it on. The better use, smoother experience would be just to simply turn it on and it will switch who we're seeing.
Now, if James turns his camera on, does he override me, or am I, because I was first, am I the primary?
You're primary.
Yeah. Yeah, you are considered a primary, and I don't think James will trump you if he turns his camera off and on right now. You'd have to turn yours off to make that happen. So very good. All right. On to the next. Oh, Lois's hand is up twice, once digitally and once physically. All right.
I wanted to let folks know, if you are interested in getting more information about disabilities and how they can be handled, in the office hours community, there's something called after hours, and there are workshops on that happen every week. So you can sign up for office hours. You'll get an email that tells you when everything is.
Yeah, and led by some members who are huge advocates and participants in the accessibility space. And so it's very, very qualified information at that. Thank you for that. James, you got your hand up as well.
Yeah, and I just wonder, like, if it would work. Probably work. It did work the way that you had mentioned. I had my camera on, during that second half. So you were just dropping me, TJ. Like if yours was off, mine would come on. But I didn't affect yours. But I think if you had like a co-host who was also controlling, like muting, that way the signers could they don't have to worry about what's going on. You'd have a co-host control some of that. I think would be good.
I think the idea is that if you're a single host, the signers can take care of themselves and you don't have to. If you're presenting, like Jeff's presenting and he's the only host, the signers can switch back and forth without Jeff having to think about it so that he can continue to monologue, right?
Yeah. And oh, baby, I can monologue for a long time. All right. Here, let me get my share back up here and keep going down the points here. So save my speaking language. So when enabling translated captions, the user can choose to save the selection to be used for future meetings. And this is one, I actually don't have access to this particular feature, translated captions on in this meeting. So I've been in a meeting and seen how it works, but I can imagine this is quite useful. I can speak in English. It will now remember that I speak in English, and the other receiving sides, whether they're German or French and so forth, there's several languages that are supported. It will translate my spoken language to theirs, and pretty impressive. I mean, even just a one-on-one call, that would be just too cool to, have both parties being able to speak their native language, which, and then, there's a percentage of success of translated captions, I'm sure, but it'd be pretty neat to be able to hear and then see, what the point and statement and so forth is. Quite powerful. And that, that's all a result from some really smart acquisitions that Zoom has done in the past couple of years as well. So it's nice to see it all come about. This one that says follow the host option is now always available, even if you don't have a custom view. So this one would be interesting to test. I haven't tested it out yet, but says meeting hosts will always have the option to push their view of meeting participants to others in the meeting. previously this was only available when there was a custom gallery view organization was set. And so I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to go to gallery view, and let me even kind of push this. Let me pen David, and I have a gallery strip across the top with David penned front and center. And I'm going to say follow host order. Now, my Mac next to me, the gallery adjusted, but the pen, I didn't suspect it would carry through, doesn't, which is not an expectation, just a test. And so I'm going to remove that pen. But now I'm going to, so I selected follow host video order. I don't have anything saved, don't have a custom order loaded, but I have selected follow host video order as the host. So I'm going to make David position 1, Mike position 2, I'm position 3, Frank is position 4. And do you all see that reflective? Now, and then Tamara, Frank, Betsy, and Pete. So top 2, oops, I got one more live video with TJ. So the first 9 videos, the first 9 squares, they're not squares, rectangles, are live video, with the exception of Tamara's that just went off. But and it's David, Mike, Jeff, and Ray, Tamara, Frank, Betsy, Pete, and then TJ, and then the meters and everything else that's off with our all profile pictures. Is that what everybody's seen? Okay. Very good. I'm wondering, I feel like I'm still missing something to push their view of the meeting participants if you don't have custom gallery view organization set. And I'm like, well, I mean, I just kind of set that, and it's like, but what am I pushing if I don't? So let's do this. Let me release. Okay, here, release video order. So that's my natural order now, nothing customized. I'm going to turn off follow host video order, and your gallery should have adjusted to your natural order as far as when people showed up and so forth. I'm not going to customize mine, but I am going to say, yeah, you have to follow mine. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, and now. It says this will lock the order of your gallery view and participants will see, and the message disappeared. Let me see if I can do that again to read the message. See the same order. You can still rearrange videos by dragging and dropping. Okay. So now, even though I'm not, this is what the new feature is, even though I haven't customized my view, you're seeing my view as far as the order goes.
Yeah.
Correct. Now my view is Frank, Jeff, David, Mike, meters, Pete, Frank, Betsy, and TJ. Is that what everybody's seeing? Okay. Now it says I still have the freedom to then customize the tiles. So now Betsy's in spot number 1, Frank is in 2. I'll move David to 3 and myself in 4. And those adjustments, we had to do something custom before we had the option to say follow host order. Now we don't have to do anything custom and just say follow host order. Because if you're in the gallery view, like when you're taking roll, and many of us are familiar with office hours, they do their mic checks. And so they do their mic checks from top left across, row by row by row, based on who they're looking at. Well, their gallery view is not everybody else's gallery view. So the panelists have to listen pretty closely to, whoever's doing the mic checks that says, hey, Ray is up next. He'll be followed by David and Mike. Ray, go ahead. Well, David and Mike have to remember, like, they're next, like audibly in their brain and memory, because their gallery is not in alignment with what he's looking at. So if they or anybody who could leverage this now, if they just started their meetings and said follow host order, then when they called out, hey, Ray, you're up next, you'll be followed by David and Mike, now they have a visual reference to that reference as well, audible reference that they provided as well. So I can find that helpful, not tied down to just a mic check, but anything organized or attendance or whatever the case may be there. So it'd be interesting to find use cases. And you're right, David. You when the audience is tied to my order, you can't adjust your gallery at that point, which makes perfect sense. Is that would really kind of trump and defeat me trying to get everybody kind of looking the same and having the same references. And so with that, but good point to bring out for sure is, if you put yourself in that position, realize that's that behavior, realize that you'll have a consequence to it as well as potentially a benefit too. All right. Joining a meeting with Okta, which is a SSO type solution, single sign-on is there. Doesn't apply here much to me anyways. I know, maybe Frank, what do you guys use? Do you have single sign-on, Frank?
Yeah, we use single sign-on and ADSF.
Yeah. Webinar features says collect external participants' emails for webinars. And when they say external, that is individuals who attended your webinar that are outside your Zoom organization. And when they say that, so account owners and admins who want email addresses from guests joining, says joining meetings, it's a webinar, hosted by users in their account to show up on their reports and dashboards can request them from those guests upon joining the meeting. I think they really mean webinar. Upon joining the webinar, guests are prompted for their name and email, even if they are currently signed in and do not fall under at least one criteria. So what I read there between the lines is it says they're going to be prompted even if they're already authenticated by Zoom, which might frustrate a user, but it's kind of like that double tap into authorizing, the capture of your data. So it's going to prompt you for, or prompt them for their name and email, even if they're already signed in. The settings available at the group, account group and user levels. It does require the user's client version to be at 5.12.6 or higher. Webinar resources. How many of you have seen this? Webinar resources. It's a bucket of assets, right? That the hosts can put together prior to starting the webinar. And it could be, information, files they want to download or whatnot. And so they can make them available to everybody. So in addition to providing links to webinar attendees, webinar hosts can also upload files for attendees to download and view during the live session. Hosts can upload files before and during the webinar, as well as make those files visible to attendees as needed or on demand. Supported file types are JPEGs, PNGs, PDFs, and PPTs for PowerPoints. Why would they not put a keynote in there? That's really weird. Anyways, hosts can upload up to 50 files per webinar, each file being able to be a maximum size of 15 meg per file.
I want that for meetings. I always feel like webinar gets stuff that would be great for meetings. Maybe it's to sell more webinar licenses.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's, like their first chosen development team internally, and if they can do it there, then they'll eventually get it in meetings. I'm not quite sure.
If I'm scheduling a meeting with all you fine people, and there's a bunch of resources I want to share, and I'm scheduling the meeting, it'd be nice to upload them while I'm scheduling so that they're available when the meeting starts, and I don't have to do it on the fly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've seen this with Denise Lahat, and I jumped on a webinar and we took a look at not this. I don't know what's new here because they've had resources for a little while. Like it says documents, I guess maybe that's the documents that are new, but it's super cool. I mean, really, really handy and very valuable in that. But yeah, I can see it being just as useful inside of a meeting. As far as resources, kind of this bucket that you can, kind of selectively release through the meeting, right? And you could do that as well. I mean, you can allow attachments in chat now and so forth, but as far as like the workflow and the ease of doing it, already having the bucket, when you attach things in the chat, you have to go out to your file system and find it, and be pre-organized that way too. So that's that. Whiteboard features. Who makes good use of whiteboards? I'm not a big user of them, but anybody here that leverages them? David did for a while, and I'm not sure if it's a continual use of them or if it was when they came out, and let's just dig in and get familiar with them. But opening whiteboards in multiple meetings and breakout rooms. Users can open whiteboards simultaneously in multiple meetings and breakouts now to see which whiteboards can be shared. Whiteboard statuses such as locked, view only, unable to share, and external collaboration disabled will be visible in the Zoom Whiteboard dashboard. Host control for in-meeting whiteboards. This is meeting hosts have control over who and when attendees can create new whiteboards. The host is the owner of any whiteboards created during a meeting. And version history for in-meeting whiteboards describes that whiteboards opened and created during a meeting now include a version history that summarizes the changes made by the users. The version history provides a list of current and previous versions, including revisions made by users, such as edits, updates, deletions, and new pages. Ability to restore previous versions can be performed only by the whiteboard owners. And then finally, a custom disclaimer for whiteboard. Admins can create a custom disclaimer to let users know what is allowed and not allowed on a whiteboard before they use it. The custom disclaimer can have a maximum of 100 characters for the title, 6,000 characters for the body. Admins can customize the disclaimer for internal and external collaborators, can control how often the disclaimer will appear, and set the language to any of the supported languages. So a lot of new features and flexibility for those that are using them. I'm not saying they're not useful, but I'm just not in a corporate team environment that would really take advantage of it. But they certainly have a lot of continuing development and enhancements to the whiteboard. Team chat, various enhancements. I don't know how I can explain this. I was in the community champions meeting a week or so ago, and there were two different chat windows, and one was like your regular meeting chat, and the other one was like our continuing channel that they have created that we have access to in team chat. And I didn't get a chance to talk to them about one tell me about this too. How do you configure it and so forth? But it's certainly piqued my interest. But they continue to build on this chat and team chat and so forth. So it's getting richer all the time. Personal notes, various enhancements have been made to the personal note feature, easier and more impactful to use. Consolidated notifications for channel members when users join, leave, are added by or removed. The various chat notifications displayed in the chat channel are consolidated down when there are multiple of these notifications given in a day. Provides more visual space for chat messages while still providing the additional information needed. And they've got a mail and calendar section. I'm not going to read through. Contact center as well. And then I'll just leave on screen some of the resolved issues that have been taken care of, several of them around phones. But anyways, always releasing, you know, some new stuff and new features. They're just nonstop. Kind of blows me away. I was just reading. I just realized I didn't share again. Oh, got it. You're just listening. My apologies. Feel free to shout at me if I do that again. Needless to say. Frank, Ray, you're muted. I might
have a
want
suggestion.
I might want you to stay muted while you chew me out for just doing that.
in the future, what I suggest, I was just processing this. We can all see it better if we follow along with the Zoom list as you commentate and we talk about it. Perhaps that's a better use than screen sharing. And then you don't have to get involved in, am I sharing, am I not? And we can blow it up and follow along with you because you're very good at saying and doing it in order. So I might suggest we try that next time. It's very useful.
Like put the URL in chat, let you open it
and
up
it's
locally.
there.
Yeah.
Somebody offered it earlier.
The downside to that is I'll change to a virtual camera that shows the document with my picture in picture on it so that the stream can also see what I'm talking about and describing.
And I was watching the stream. The opposite was on, and that was you were talking, but the share was on. So on the YouTube. So there's a solution there someplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Great idea. Very good. So I want to go back and tell me if you've got other things on your mind, but I've really been thinking about, just going through the share options, because there's a lot of ways to share, and I think the goal is, shouldn't be limited to so they can see it or so they can see it and hear it. It should be that it can come up quickly, come up and change from one to the other smoothly, and then ultimately so they can see and hear it, and then you can talk about the efficiencies as well. How do you share most efficiently? And then you can also talk about screen real estate management on your own monitors while you're sharing, single mode, dual mode in Zoom as well. So there's really a lot to it, and we just assume that it is easy and everybody can do it when you really don't have to educate. I think it's essential if you're sharing, because not everybody has OBS or vMix or Ecamm or whatnot to virtual camera it, which is a great step beyond sharing, but a lot of folks are locked into Zoom and Zoom only, and so it's really, and I'll say, mastering the sharing experience, whether you're the sharer or the recipient of it, is absolutely not limited to having your skills up to par in Zoom. It is, you have to be very familiar with shortcuts and keyboard shortcuts and behaviors of the Mac platform and or the Windows platform as well. It's really in combination. You have to be familiar with your operating systems and Zoom both to really pull things off. And some of the behaviors of Keynote and PowerPoint when it's a deck, right? How and where it's going to display the presenter's view versus the presentation view. And are you leaving, Betsy? Okay, thanks for coming. And so you have to be, well prepared for that. And it's not just fixed. It's like, where's it going to be? I'll be prepared. It's like you have to go in and set up that show file, so that it does what you need it to do as well. David, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just found something else that's new. I think it's new. And it's the smallest thing, but it makes me, it has absolutely made my day. Cool. So, so here's my Zoom client, right? Just not the meeting itself, but the client. Up until just now, or maybe when I updated, this was as small as I could get it.
As far as dragging it now, I'll add to
my
that.
Day.
Let's go here. So you're saying, yeah, so you can shrink it. So I will say that they have had this feature, but it was always only a menu selection, I believe. Yeah. So if you go here, I'll share. I'm not trying to down your party of excitement, but I think what they did was they allow you to drag it smaller now, where they used to bind to that and stop you before. So because I'm not going to be able to see that dialogue while I'm sharing. All right, hang on. Let's leverage vMix.
So I feel like up until they released Mail and Calendar, I was able to do this. And then around the time that they did Mail and Calendar, I feel like it stopped me here or somewhere around here. But now I'm able to get it smaller, which is really nice.
So if it's a bad view, it's horrible to get that infinite thing, but I'm thinking, trying to get that. Where'd my second Zoom window go? Why is it not there now? Used to. Killed the share. Boy, every once in a while I get trapped. It's like, where the heck did it go? This is super frustrating. So I only have one Zoom window. I can't find that the Zoom main dialogue to get to and show. Super frustrating. Quit Zoom. There it is. That was so not obvious. All right, let's see if I can get by with showing it. Let me spotlight one of you guys, or pin. Let me pin David. Let me share screen 2. And then bring up that dialogue. There we go. All right. So, whether it doesn't matter what tab you're on, but under the profile icon, there's been this option that says switch to portrait view or Alt-L. And that just like pops it right to that kind of mobile view as well. But I think your point being is, I think they used to stop us from doing that manually with a mouse, which is, pretty intuitive and natural to.
I had no idea.
But I don't ever see anybody use, and I don't really use it either, quite honestly. But I think they've extended that menu option or shortcut of Alt-L. Yeah, but Alt-L, it's probably on a Mac is what, Command-L or maybe. but now you can mouse it down too. So yeah, and I mean, you're like the master of multiple window management because as a VCam, right? I mean, it's kind of its natural kind of look and feel.
Oh my God, so many windows.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time. Hard time doing that. But all right. As far as sharing, I don't want to go through, the utter basics, but I do want to go through. I have, let's say I'm a trainer, I'm a software trainer or a desktop trainer, or whatever the case may be. And I've got 3 different applications that I'm going to be sharing, during my presentation or class today. Can I have them open on my computer all, ahead of time? The answer is yes. Can I share them all at the same time as far as the share mechanism goes, but only show one at a time, as I need it? And the answer is yes. And so if I were to try to, I'm going to do this on the fly. I'm going to, I'll share my screen first, just so you can see the setup. So here's my first monitor that usually hosts during this meeting, vMix. I'm going to also open up the browser for the release notes. And so that would be like application number 2 that I'm preparing for. I do have Photoshop open already because I put a little border around that graphic today. So I'll make that application number 3. So let's say those are the 3 apps that I know I'm going to be tapping into and sharing with the audience in the Zoom meeting today. So they're opened already. And, this happens to be, my computer thinks this is monitor 2. My center one it considers number 1, which is where all my desktop icons are. And so, but if I had a desktop full of icons or a wallpaper that I didn't necessarily want to become distracting, I don't want to share my desktop. I want to share my apps, but I want Zoom to be prepared to share multiple apps, but visually only one at a time, if that makes sense. So all 3 apps are open. I'm going to stop my desktop share right now, and I'm going to go back to the share button, and I'm not going to share screens, but I am going to click once on Photoshop, control click the release notes, and control click the vMix app. So I've selected 3 applications that are already open and available inside the Zoom share window. I've selected those 3, and now I can still, just the same, I can tell it to optimize for video if any of these apps are going to be doing that. And I kind of do that. I can justify that because of vMix. And so I'll do that. And then I can click on share. And so I'll do that. And what you see as a result are those 3 apps, right? Now, that doesn't look like much of a recommended solution, because the last part that you want to do before you share is this. I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to maximize the Photoshop window. I'm going to maximize the vMix window. And I'm going to maximize, what else do I have? The release notes. So now all 3 apps are stacked on top of one another, but they're full screened. And so there's only ever one visually showing at a time. But Zoom is going to be made well aware, share app number 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. So what it's left up to me when I make it visible, and that's an operating system challenge, right? That's Windows, alt tabbing between the apps or command tabbing between the apps on a Mac, but they're already all shared. It's just a matter of, can the world see them yet? Are they forward? So I'm going to do the same thing. I know they're all three open. I know they're all three maximized on the screen. I'm not going to share the screen. I'm still going to share the individual apps. So I'm going to click on the notes, control click on Photoshop, and control click on vMix, optimize it for video in this case, and I'm going to click share. And so you see, in fact, vMix and vMix only, but without having to stop the share. Now you can see that I'm alt tabbing because you happen to be able to see my vMix screen right now. So you can see that I'm alt tabbing between my open apps. And so although you're seeing vMix, I'm alt tabbing, I'm going to let go, boom, and you'll instantly see the notes. I'll alt tab again, and this time you'll see Photoshop. And so it's a super fast way to be able to share multiple applications with the right prep in place. You can do this, like if you had a 4K monitor and you created quadrants on that 4K monitor and shared that app, you would be able to see all three of them or four of them. But you could click, it's when the app has focus is when Zoom shows it to your audience. So you could click on each individual app at your given time, and that is when. But you saw kind of an ugly result in my world because they were overlapping, and that's kind of a mess at that point. You can't move application shares. Like if you say, hey, share Photoshop and it's on monitor number 1, you can't drag it over to monitor number 2. If you shared it on 1, it's really behind the scenes, it's locked to that device. It'll complain, it'll pop up a message and let you know. But that I don't see a lot of with people, but I think it works fascinating in that sense, especially if one of those was like a keynote or PowerPoint presentation. Is you can I've put PowerPoint in presentation mode, so single monitor hosted the PowerPoint application, and then I told it to go into presentation mode on the same monitor. So now there's a full screen presentation, which is a separately shareable object in Zoom versus the PowerPoint application. And so if I was training PowerPoint, I would share both of those applications and just alt tab between them. Or if I wasn't doing that, then I would just share the presentation, and then a lot of people will struggle naturally because they have one monitor. They've limited themselves. And so they have Zoom, which they want to see the audience and so forth, but they also need to share a presentation. Well, those that give me the opportunity to coach them before the meeting starts, I'll say, go ahead and launch PowerPoint on the single monitor setup. Go ahead and put it in presentation mode, and they freak out and they go, I can't see Zoom now. It's okay. Now you have to know something about your operating system. Alt tab or command tab back to Zoom, so you're in the meeting. And then when you are ready to share that application, the presentation, then share, and you'll see the PowerPoint representation, share PowerPoint. It will come on top of Zoom in your world, but it will be shared out to everybody else. And once they start figuring that out, I'm not saying a single monitor is ideal, but if they have the skills and knowledge of their operating system coupled with the capabilities of Zoom, it's very doable. And it's just, a lot of people are really limited, on what they can do. Tamara's mentioned it in the past, with PowerPoint. It's like, if I were to share advanced tab portion of the screen, it gives me this green box. I can move it over and just take it down to the size of this graphic I'm working on in Photoshop. My desktop, I get to see the entire Photoshop. You can't. You can just see the results. But I can go over here and I can select a tool, to say I'll select the eraser tool, and then I'll come back over here and and start making changes, which you'll see, and it's on the wrong layer, but you start making changes and you only get to see that. And so it's a portion of the screen. So anything I bring into, once that portion of the screen is sharing, if I bring up the release notes, you can only see what the green border is around. I can resize it on the fly, or I can resize my browser, I guess, or I can resize the portion of the screen border definition. So stretch that out, stretch it up, and so it cleans things up. So that, I liken portion of the screen to the old transparency projector. Whatever you put on top of it, as long as it's a transparency, it will get projected on the wall. The same thing with this portion of the screen. Whatever ends up inside that green border box, and you can resize it, and it remembers where you put it last. So even if you stop a share and restart it, it will pop up right where you left it. I think it's a great piece of flex as well. So Ray, I see your note. You on your way out?
Got to go in a few minutes.
Okay, very good. As always, thanks for your support. So that, anybody else have, your own tips and tricks on, smoothness of presentation and so forth?
My biggest problem with screen share is that the speaker disappears. Most people don't have dual monitor enabled, and when the speaker kind of disappears up into the top corner, it just I don't know. To me, the whole point. Sorry for the beeping. To me, the whole point is the presenter is so much more important than the presentation.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So, and dual monitor. To turn dual monitor on inside of Zoom, do you have to have two physical monitors?
I think you actually do, but then once you enable it, I think you have to have two physical monitors, but then once it's enabled, I don't think you need two physical monitors. I could be wrong about that, though.
You could probably trick it with one of those dummy plugs that you plug in.
Yeah, dummy HDMI plugs. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, that was a real question. Like, I would have guessed no, it's not bound to it recognizing that you have two physicals, because all it's really doing is popping up another Zoom window and using it for output. Whether it does that all on one monitor on top of itself or not, I'm not sure, but it's definitely worth testing and verifying. I don't know that there's if it was if you had a 42-inch 4K monitor and you could turn on dual mode and then manage those two Zoom windows on that same monitor, because its resolution is so high, I could see a single physical monitor being an advantage of turning on dual monitor mode in Zoom at that point, because you have so much.
Right. I would just offer, Jeff, that the folks that I'm thinking about, if they don't have two monitors, the last thing they have is a 4K monitor. And, know how to. I mean,
perfect point. Yeah, they either don't have the desktop, or it just scares them to death to try to add a second one, or maybe it's budget. Yeah, no, totally get it. But main point being is, I don't think there's a win when you have a customer who has one monitor, whatever the reason may be. I don't think there's any win coming from, hey, turn on dual monitor mode, for Zoom. It just adds to mayhem going on their single monitor. Frank, what you got?
Actually, I have a question. I know about it, but I never do it. Are you able to discuss side by side when you're presenting and how that all plays together?
Yeah, so
it does nothing.
So my Windows PC, which is, you know, my host, is a Windows PC. Side by side is not initially enabled, and so if I go to the settings, I share this out so everybody can see. If I bring up the settings, the side by side's under general, right? Is it general or video or share? Actually, it's on share. Oh, it actually is on. Okay. All right. So yeah, we just don't have a share going on at the moment, but it is enabled. And if I wanted it on, I'm covered. But on a Windows machine, if I wanted to turn it off in meeting, it's not going to turn off. I mean, you can change your view options, like your side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery, or normal, which I think it says normal, which is, you know, the big, you know, kind of speaker view with the thumbnail tabs across the top. But on a Mac, you can actually dynamically enable it or disable it. You know, if it wasn't on and you want it on, you can go to share screen settings and turn it on, and it'll be there. But in a much unlike webinar, I can, as the host, I can force side by side out to the audience. And so, you know, they get the big picture and they get side by side. And so they get the share plus the speaker or multiple spotlit speakers. But in a meeting, you can't, as a host, you can't force that to your audience. It's an audience choice, whether they want it on or, and I don't think even to this day, it doesn't install by default enabled. And so somebody would have to go to the settings and, you know, see that it's there and say, oh, what is that? Or I like that, I've seen it before, and then they would enable it. But I think they still have to consciously enable it. It's the, I like side by side. I really, you know, I really prefer it because it ends up, you know, putting the share up, which would be like the presentation, and either the spotlight, the multiple spotlights, or no spotlights and just be the gallery. But it has this vertical delineating bar that is movable with your mouse. So you can click and drag it. And so you can make the gallery very large and the share very small, and or vice versa. And so you can dynamically resize that accordingly. What's been your experience? What specific kind of questions or info do you want beyond what I've described so far?
Oh, I think you covered it pretty well. I use it sometimes, but I always forget to use it. I guess if you're doing a local record, you could record that too, right? So that you could kind of have...
Yeah, that's that topic. Record. I don't know. I'm not. I can't claim to be an expert of, you know, trying to figure all that piece out. Now, I can't test the local record myself. ISO's going over there and it's already claiming a local record, and my main PC is already doing a cloud record, so I can't start a local record.
I'll try it I'll try it on the weekend or something.
I can, you know, I mean, I'm happy to give you local record rights right now, and you can, you know, we can put a share up there. So are you on a Mac or PC?
Mac. And I'm using two screens,
so you could turn on side by side.
I have it on, but
so when I'm sharing, are you seeing it, or are you in dual monitor mode?
I'm in dual monitor. I'm in dual monitor mode, so I don't really get to use it very often.
Yeah.
I'm
so you would, yeah, good point to throw out for everybody is you'd have to, just go. I mean, in a Mac, you can do it all dynamically and it'll do it. So you go uncheck dual monitor mode. And so now you're single monitor mode for Zoom. And then the next time I share and also make sure that side by side is enabled. And then now when I share, you'll see that single Zoom window displaying side by side for you. You ready? Tell me when you're ready.
I'm just looking for it. I never turn off dual monitor mode. I hate single monitors.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not sure which. Is it in video or is it in?
I think it's in general. Yeah, general. It should be like fourth option. It says use dual monitors.
When you guys are testing this, Jeff, I'm actually going to test it on my PC here too.
Okay.
I just turned them both on. I don't usually have them both on.
I'm not seeing it in. Oh, I'm in the wrong menu. Use dual monitors. There we go. Okay. I just turned it off.
Okay. And side by side is enabled.
Screen share. Yeah, it's on.
Okay. So I'll share these release notes again that we were looking at earlier. So now there's a share.
Yep. Yeah. Now I have.
Now on your single Zoom window, you have side by side, right?
Yep.
And between the two, the share and the gallery, you've got a bar that you can mouse over.
I can. Yep, I can
do all that.
I can make it whatever proportion I want of my screen.
I actually, Denise and I did this. It's not in meetings.
I'll take a screenshot for everybody.
Can't be done in meetings, but in webinar, and I didn't think this could be done. And it caught her eye. She was watching somebody's broadcast of whatever the content was, and she goes, how in the world are they doing that? Which she knew she was in a webinar, but it was full screen, no speakers, no speaker next to the shared full screen. It's like, how in the world are they doing that? And so we went through the options, and so what I don't remember the exact option, but it was the configuration was let's say I'm the host of the webinar. Mike, let's say you're the one designated to share the content. And let's say, Frank, you're the speaker. And, but I don't even think Frank has to be a part of this. I can't be the one sharing it as the host. Yeah, somebody else in the webinar has to be the sharer. Could just be another machine next to me. But when that share is being presented, then there was an option, I don't remember what it was, under like the more button that we could choose, and it would just go poof, full screen share, no more active speaker or spotlit speaker. It just became the share and the share only. I'm like, that's amazing. I've never ever seen that be able to be accomplished. But it was one, it was webinar only. Two, it was magical because I could not pull it off if I was the one sharing as the host, but I could pull it off if it was somebody else who was sharing. And I think it was whether it was hide self view or something. So I think it was hiding self view, and then it just took that video window out of the picture altogether. It was a super cool find, but I don't have a lot of customers using webinar these days. I did over the last couple of years, but now it's more meetings, which is good. In my world, I think it's great because that means engagement, a lot more engagement versus just delivery. And I think those meetings are healthy. All right.
The other complaint I hear a lot is window size when screen sharing changes.
Yeah.
So there's 3 choices you have there: full screen mode, minimize, and maintain current size. I always use maintain current size, but I hear people complaining about this a lot all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's because, when you I wonder how we can, this would be a tough one to demo without me really thinking about it. But the natural, install Zoom for the first time and become a, user has to join a meeting, and then somebody shares El Zappo full screen, right? By default, I believe it's a full screen option that it ships and installs with. And I think that really throws people because it hides everything, right? Well, it makes it nice and large, but it also covers up a bunch, and especially those with a single monitor, they get thrown for a loop, because fact of the matter is, reality is whether you want to call it multitasking or distracted or whatever, most people are often looking at something else, whether it's reading or doing or whatever the case may be. But I think it defaults to full screen mode. And full screen mode is different than maximize window, right? I mean, full screen mode is kind of no borders full screen. Maximize in a full screen mode, you can't necessarily click on the window and like drag it or resize it. When you go to maximize window, then you have borders of the window that are, in fact, you can mouse over them, get the arrows so you can resize it and drag it somewhere, clicking on the title bar and so forth. Maintain current size is my option as well. Same kind of thing, Frank, is don't be screwing things up on me just because somebody shared. I need some feel of still consistency and so forth. So it can be I mean, even when you're in the dual monitor mode, your second Zoom window can be really small, quite small, kind of like a little 5-inch monitor on my 27-inch physical monitor. And when somebody shares or active speaker or spotlight, that's where they end up. It's just in that there's no overtaking your desktop. I definitely agree that that throws people pretty doggone quick. It there's a checkbox under there as well. So when a screen, what we were talking about first, full screen, maximize, or maintain, that's when somebody starts to screen share. But then there's a checkbox to scale to fit that shared content to the Zoom window. So don't adjust the Zoom window to the size of the share. Make sure you adjust the content inside your Zoom window. So that one helps a lot. And then I see the Zoom window show. If you train Zoom, if you want to show somebody something about Zoom and need to show the toolbars or whatnot, then there's that option to enable that. But that also I could try to guide somebody to say, oh, make sure you check mark show my Zoom windows to other participants when I'm screen sharing. And they'll say, oh, I don't see that. That's not there. And that's because it's also a web portal settings first. You have to actually enable that feature on the back end so that the option actually shows itself inside the client itself. So side by side, silence notifications while sharing can be kind of helpful.
So I think that's really important. If depending what you do for a living, you're an accountant or a lawyer or something, you don't want instant messages popping up saying, I'm guilty or I defrauded or something. Like you want to keep that stuff private.
Well, and you want to be Zoom share savvy. You really do. I mean, like I think it was a local headline. Maybe it was a national headline that the talk radio station here in town picked up a couple weeks ago. But it went social, so it had to have been a national story. But anyways, this this gal was, on a Zoom with I think it was a marketing firm that she was considering doing some business with. And I think there were 3 gentlemen, on that end of the Zoom meeting. And they were going back and forth. And, the guys popped up, shared a show or something. Well, they shared the whole desktop, including some chatting that had been going on that was completely inappropriate amongst themselves about her. And it's like, guys, man, what a faux at that. And, they lost the opportunity for the business and the whole bit. And it made a headline because she didn't post she posted about it in a very professional way, quite honestly. But you can, I say share apps, don't share desktops. All the opportunity. And in our browsers, often we have multiple tabs. God, sometimes I see people that just have seems like 100 tabs open. I'm like, you can't even see the titles because the tabs are so tiny, but they're open. There's a whole performance issue and discussion around that. But because it really, especially the Chrome browser, just is a resource hog. But if you're going to need to share, you don't want to kill your browser because you've got 30 useful tabs that you want to get back to after the Zoom meeting. Pull the tab out of that browser. So it's just its own browser window, which then becomes a shareable application in Zoom, so that you don't have to share the whole browser with all the tabs. You can just share that browser in the tab. I want to confirm this. I'm pretty doggone sure I've pulled this off with success. So the release notes here. Yeah. So I've got where we were sharing the release notes earlier. That's the desktop, but it has 2 tabs open. Let me put a Google tab there, and then Google Maps, and so I got multiple tabs open. If all I wanted to share, so if I go to share I can share the whole desktop, which is what you're looking at, or I can share Chrome right now. If I close the share dialog for a second, stop the active share, pull the Google Maps tab out of that browser. Now I have 2 browser windows open, one with a single tab, one with all the others. Now I click on share. Now I have 2 different Chrome applications that I can share. And one is the one that has multiple tabs, which I don't want to share, but one is the Google Maps, single tab, single app. I'll maximize that. And now you don't have any other tabs that you can see. And I've maintained my privacy because I just switched over to the other one. I ripped the Google Maps tab out of this browser, left it behind the scenes so that I wouldn't have to show everything at the same time. So just that behavior itself. Anybody?
Hey, Jeff, can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah, you bet.
I just want to share that one of the things that we really need to stop doing in a meeting is, okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Let me get right.
Struggle.
Yeah. So when I was using screen share, there's an option to immediately share just with one button press the primary desktop. And so what I did is, and I still have this set up to this day, even though I'm not screen sharing, is I know that whatever is on my primary desktop, that's what's going to be shared. And so I'm very thoughtful about how I, move things around and where I put things and stuff like that. And if you have multiple monitors and you can dedicate a monitor to your screen share, then not only can you hide sensitive information, but you can make the screen sharing process much simpler by just, when you press screen share, you're not going to get another dialogue that you're going to have to choose. It's just going to share your primary desktop.
Yeah, so true. Great advice. The so over here on my Mac, which is what's running the ZoomISO client, I have Companion showing right now. So I full screened the Chrome browser with Companion loaded, and I didn't test this ahead of time, but I have Share Screen 1 as one of the buttons on my Stream Deck. And so if I press that, I've just pressed one button and it just instantly shares, And so like you say, David, if you can have, the content or application prepared, right, and just have that one button opportunity. And this is the result of ZoomOSC. ZoomOSC can share things selectively, but it does have that share primary screen option, and I can do that just a touch. I mean, if I know right where that button is, I can just press it and away we go. It will share away. So and pop it right up. So I am with you, and it's one of those things. If all you can do is shares and you don't have the opportunity for, or the, wherewithal or budget for vMix, Ecamm, OBS or whatnot, and you're stuck with sharing, then get good at it. Understand what it takes to get good at it. I mean, is there not a shortcut? Oops, killed my video. Under settings. So keyboard shortcuts, is there a shortcut for sharing? I'm pretty confident there is. But what is it? That's what I have to remind myself. Video, mics. Where's the sharing? Gonna find it. I wish there was a search in the keyboard shortcuts dialog, by the way. So all you Zoom people that are listening, wish there was a search.
I see start and stop, Jeff. It's Alt S.
Alt S.
That's
right.
to start and stop.
So on my Windows machine, I'm gonna just simply do an Alt S. Now, it doesn't instantly share. It pops up the share dialog window on my PC, and so I could quickly do this. But I'll do this. I'm going to play prep prior to the meeting starting. I'm going to share Photoshop and click share. And I go, okay, that's great. That works. It looks good. Okay. All right. Meeting's going to start. And so the meeting starts and I've got my fingers on Alt S. And so I do that. And what I was looking for is, will it remember what I shared last? And the answer is no. It went back to screen 2. Let me share screen 1 in preparation. Kill that. Alt S. And it went back to screen 2. So unfortunately, I say unfortunately, Alt S to quickly pop up the share dialog. It doesn't have any memory, because I'm always in the, hey, do it before the meeting starts. And if it has the memory, you could Alt S and hit enter, which is like click on the share button, and you could pop it up really quickly. But it doesn't, unfortunately, have that memory. Now, what it always does is share. It wants to always highlight screen 2. And to know that, I would say, well, can you put the content you want to share on screen 2, knowing that that's where it's going to be, and we go with that. So now let me test this. I go Alt S. It keeps. Why is it doing that? Oh, there it is. And enter. Yeah. So that, so to know that on Windows, I don't know if it's the same on the Mac. If Alt S, one, you have to have the Zoom has to be the app with the focus, right? You have to make sure that it has focus by clicking on it with a mouse. If it has focus, Alt S pops it up. I know that it always has on my computer, always has screen 2 selected by default. But knowing that, I prepared my shared app to be on screen 2, to be ready. So I Alt S, press the enter key, boom, it's instantly sharing screen 2. So,
Jeff,
quickest, no thumb. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to let you know too, there's Alt Shift S, and that brings up your dialog box right away.
Alt Shift F.
Alt Shift S as in Sam.
Oh, Alt Shift S. Well, that's the same thing as Alt S.
Interesting. And there is another one for screen sharing, which is pause and resume.
Yeah, that's a freeze frame.
Alt-T.
Interesting here, though. I wonder. So on my screen 2 is my Zoom gallery window and also the share pop-up dialog. I'm going to drag the pop-up dialog over to monitor 1, and I'm going to share screen 1 and then stop sharing screen 1, and then I'm going to bring up the share dialog, and it ended up back on 2 again. So it seems to have, I was wondering if I could break its preference for screen 2, but it's not looking like I can do that either. Always is popping up on 2 on my system and always has screen 2 highlighted. But, and like I said, we research behaviors. Like, if this is an absolutely predictable behavior, then play to it, make sure that that's where your application is that you want to share, because the pop-up dialog is going to be pre-selected on screen 2, and all you have to do is hit the enter key on your keyboard. So Alt S, enter, boom, you're sharing screen 2. And as long as your app's there, your content's there, you're in. I don't want to tear them apart on it. There's a lot of choices when it comes to sharing, and if this is the default behavior, then run with it. But I get it. I think David had to drop, but I missed that. But point is stumbles when getting ready to share. I mean, it's not just the share. I mean, people will. Hey, I'll work with her again tomorrow, the customer, and to this day, it's like she shares, and then you get this like short version of PowerPoint, and she stretches the window while it's sharing, then tries to find the tiny little presentation icon. I'm like, yay. So, and she's a single monitor user, right? And so last week I actually finally got to share it for her, which worked out good. But and by the way, got to compliment her. I mean, she goes, oh, I'll just say next slide or this and that. I said, well, you really don't have to, I said, just give me a verbal cue of, give me something that's conclusive about this slide and where I feel like you're moving to the next, right? We had never done that together. And I'll tell you what, verbally, she did a bang up job. And I don't think she ever said next slide, and I'm like, that was super cool. That doesn't happen very often. But I've been trying to get her to remember each week, when she's the one sharing, hit launch PowerPoint and hit Shift F5, or I think is it just F5 or Shift F5, launches it into Preso mode. It doesn't matter what size the window is or anything. Just go Preso mode, or the full screen Preso mode on the first slide. And so little things like that can smooth things out and get rid of those lumps going from. And the other thing is you don't have to stop a share to start another one. as an individual, if you're, if you didn't pre-select, both apps or all 3 apps or whatnot, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let it share and realize you don't have to. If I share my second screen, you'll see my toolbar, right? a lot of folks, too many folks, I think, they go, oh, I have something else to share, so now I want to share PowerPoint, and they click stop, and then they go down to the toolbar and click on share again. Click share while you're sharing and select that next application, and then click share, and it's just boom, boom, from one to the next. And it doesn't have to be this, gap of time of the stop and then the gap of time for them to find what they're going to share next. Get all that done behind the scenes. You saw it because I wanted you to see, what I was doing behind the scenes, but that's all behind the scenes, and it just switches from one. Because Zoom is, I will say that I learned, here, I'll show this. I'll show this. Let me move this Zoom window up on my Mac to the other monitor. Get out of the way. And then share my first monitor. Okay. So minimize that. So you're seeing, oh, this is not, the settings aren't showing. Let me see if I can get those settings on. I think I need to stop sharing first so I can get to that window. Let's see. Settings. I don't think I've told my ISO client to share all windows. I don't know if it has the Zoom windows option or not, but I'll see. Always display participants there, enable. Share screen, full screen, scale to fit, side by side. Yeah, this I think the account I'm logged in with on my ISO client doesn't have this option on the portal set to allow me to share my my desktop. Let me do this through vMix. There we go. All right, so my video window is going to become this desktop. So I'll spotlight this. Oh, I can't spotlight it. All right, I'll leave it small. If you want to see me bigger, my video window bigger, just pen it locally, and you'll see. But what I wanted to show here is this is the ZoomISO client. Now, the main client is a Zoom window. I mean, it's in the meeting, right? And so that's just on the other monitor because that's not what I want to show you right now. The ZoomISO, the engine itself, to be able to pull, video. So I'm pulling my video. You can see here, preview. It's pulling my my video. That's my video output. If I were to cut that back in vMix to me, you'll see that it changes to me. So that's my video output. This one was set to Ray. Well, Ray's gone now. So if I make this Frank, it'll pull your video as well. So it's pulling these clean, isolated 1080p videos. That's what ISO does. That's its job. And I can add another. I want to add 2 outputs for what I want to show you. It can also pull shares that are in the meeting as well. So I can take the active screen share and I'll say here, active screen share. But what I want to show you is this is Zoom behind the scenes actually tracks a share, active screen share 1 and 2. And that is kind of that you can enable multiple shares, right, from multiple people at the same time. and it has to stack up somewhere, right? Something has to be tracking it and so forth. It's not that the audience can see them all at the same time, but the audience can select from the drop down which one they want to see, and so they can make the drive. But something behind the scenes actually tracking them. So in ISO, it exposes share 1 and share 2, and so what I did learn is what they referred to as, I call it a cutover share. I think Andy called it something slightly different, but similar enough, I think, is a cutover share. And that is, I'm sharing, and then Frank, you share. And when you share, it kills my share and displays your share. So it cuts over from me to you. Well, what's really happening is, like, share 1 is me, and share 2 temporarily, when you do that cutover, your share 2, when I drop, which is like in milliseconds, then it slides you into share 1. And so it's this kind of management going on behind the scenes. So it's kind of cool that I could see it and learn about it. I tell it, hey, capture it and put it out in DI and so forth. So if I share now, Photoshop, yeah, I just lost. Yeah, I can't see the client anymore. But needless to say, it's the ability to capture the shares and so forth. But because of this management of kind of a share 1 and a share 2, which is usually quite momentary, that was a little bit of the problem behind being able to always depend on capturing the active share too, that people using ZoomISO have been experiencing, but they've got that behind the scenes, they've got that fixed in their beta that they're getting ready to release sometime here in the future. So kind of neat stuff, but we didn't even touch on, there's gray boxes that, some people contend with. When they share, you can see the gray boxes that represent toolbars, Zoom toolbars and stuff like that. Not a lot of machines produce that anymore, I don't believe, but there are still some, and I think it's really kind of machine GPU, settings type, combination that can cause it. I had 2 people that I got fixed on that in the last few weeks, and both of them, I had no idea, and I think I might have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but they were joining all their Zoom meetings, whether they were a host or an attendee, all their Zoom meetings, they were using the web browser. And like, why? Like, I had no sense, like, you're not on a Chromebook, they're on full-fledged computers, and they had the client software installed, they just weren't using it. And they were, they just had built this habit of logging into meetings in the browser.
Were they both using Chrome?
Yeah, I don't know that for sure. I think so, but
I've seen a lot of problems for video related issues in Chrome browser using hardware acceleration. Inside of Chrome has a setting for hardware acceleration.
Oh, it does. Yeah, I've
turning it off quite often fixes quite a few video bugs.
Yeah. Yeah, and whether it was, it's on by default, and I've gone in because I want vMix to be able to use all my GPU and Zoom, and but I had these browsers. Firefox does it, Chrome does it, Discord does it as well. They all have settings that you can turn on or off for GPU acceleration, and all I had to do, and I didn't know that was going to be the result by any stretch, but we got them on the client first, got it updated, and the problems just simply went away. I didn't have to go any further, but the fact is there is that advanced button under share settings of using hardware acceleration for shares, and that that can usually resolve. But then there's like, what, 4 other options of, how it uses it, with is it with Windows or not Windows? Let me go look at that real quick. Advanced share settings, screen capture mode. So when I'm the one sharing out, capture with window filtering, advanced share with window filtering, advanced share without window filtering, secure share with window filtering, and then legacy operation system. So there's a lot of options in the sense that one can choose to try to resolve whether it's mild tearing or big time tearing, or these gray boxes and so forth. And then there's says there's use TCP connection for screen sharing just above those that I read off. And select this option when you cannot see content on the shared screen, or when others cannot see your content on the screen. So they check that box that says use TCP connection for screen sharing. And I think I would guess what that's doing is, in order for Zoom to meet one of their primary objectives, which is low latency, right? Speedy delivery, they're probably delivering shares across using UDP packets. And UDP packets are kind of a message in a bottle. Put the data in that network packet, UDP packet, and throw it, and hope it gets there, hope it gets received in the right order, and so forth. It's considered what's considered to be an unreliable protocol, where if you check this box, it's going to slow things down, because TCP versus UDP is a reliable protocol. And that is that it requires a handshake and an acknowledgement from the recipient. And so you send it, and let's say it's sequence number 50. It says, I've received sequence number 50, and you have to get that, within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, the sender is going to resend it if it never gets an acknowledgement of, let's say, number 50, packet number 50, then it'll resend it. So it's a very reliable protocol, but a lot of overhead to do that, but it can help guarantee that the, data is there and gets there, and so forth. It just may really slow things down. So anyways, that's my guess, is what they're doing is switching from one protocol to the other. So there's a lot of options to help solve, efficient, clarity and time of delivery and so forth. But their default settings, for the most part, are pretty solid. Screen capture mode is auto. Hardware acceleration is naturally for screen sharing checked, and it works in almost all cases, I would guess. So anyways, hey, I think that may be all I've got. Frank, Pete, Mike, DJ, you guys, anything else on your mind? Any topics, tests?
What are you going to title this episode? Sharing about sharing?
Yeah. Well, the invite title was the release note. So that's, that's that. But yeah, when I go edit, I'll add, a discussion around sharing.
I think the counterpoint, or the second part of this at some point in the future, is configuring screen recording to the cloud and locally, because especially for screen recording to the cloud, there's a lot of different options about what you want to capture.
There's a lot of things you don't have to do, because the cloud will capture specific definitions. But in that, kind of that broadcast, what am I broadcasting, because one of those cloud recordings is actually sourced from the host's machine, then it's all those rules around that, like, the do's and the don'ts. Like it's the very reason I can't make my ISO client the host, because, in order for my Stream Deck to have that gallery position page, the ISO client has to be in gallery view. And so, when I spotlight somebody, the last thing I have the actions do is set my Zoom client to gallery view. Do this and then set it to gallery view. Do this and then set it to gallery view. So I'm just kind of forcing it back to gallery view all the time. Well, if it's the host, you're going to get a cloud recording that's gallery view, with all these hops and bounces. And so I leave this machine to be the host. And right now I'm in gallery view. So that's what's being recorded on that one particular recording in the cloud. But yeah, it makes a big difference. And to your point, Frank, is what if I, here, I'm going to make you, Frank, I'm going to make you the host. Make Frank the host. Yes. No, Frank's the host. I have no idea what kind of view you're looking at right now, whether it's gallery, speaker, whatever, but you're now the source of the same recording I've been recording to, right? And so that changeover, like without the knowledge of that, now I still own the recording. It's still going to be under my account's cloud storage, even if I leave and you're the host, but now your desktop is the source. And if you're in dual monitor, which desktop, right? Is it the first one or the second one?
I usually keep my primary desktop in gallery mode, and I keep my secondary one in whatever is being shared by the host.
Yeah.
Just an update from YouTube. When you did the switch, whatever is on Frank's primary is now showing on YouTube.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, no, same behavior. Yeah, YouTube is so Zoom sources the host to create the stream, and I don't remember the name of the I'm going to reclaim host now, but so you should see YouTube go back to me, right? Because I'm active speaker, and I'm in speaker view on my desktop. So that's what these streams should become now. But anyways, yeah, no, Frank, you make a great point. And I'm telling you, it could be, we could spend 3 weeks, 3 Fridays on recording, because, everything local, local in the meeting, from privileges to quality to layout and so forth, to how do you record breakout rooms, and can you do a local recording and do a playback of a snippet of that recording within the meeting? It's not feature and functionality built into Zoom, but my answer is yes, you can, but it takes a level of practice and knowledge to know how to pull that off. But there's that, and then all the cloud stuff, like you said, is there's a lot of options up there. You can burn a ton of cloud storage in a heartbeat these days, because there's a lot of things that can be recorded. And I've got them almost all of them checked. But the other thing is all the ISO records as well, audio records, that it can do it locally, local ISO records, and it can also do, I think, up to 200 local ISO records, audio records in the cloud too. So lots that could be talked about. I love that suggestion. We'll go down that path, because it's a toughie, and then there's what's that video quality on a one-on-one call versus when 3 or more people show up. Does the resolution change, and can it, and so forth, and can you get high quality with 2 people side by side, and all that. If my screen is showing the 2 people in the meeting, me and, let's say, Frank, you and I are in a meeting, and I size my window to where our 2 videos stack on top of one another versus go side by side, because my Zoom window is not wide enough, will that actually affect the recording? You know what? I don't know the answer to that, but it's possible, right? I mean, if you're really dependent on using Zoom as a recording tool, and you really desire a specific type of output, you got to test all these things out, so yeah, great suggestion.
It's also going to be interesting whenever Zoom gets around to releasing the kind of broadcast abilities they're saying, that they talked about at Zoomtopia, right? Whenever that's going to be, but I'm looking forward to seeing it when it comes out.
Yeah, that, and I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the studio,
the sort of the more
custom layouts, and then here eventually they're going to release double-ended recording.
Double enders, yeah.
So it will.
I'm hoping that's cloud. I imagine you're doing a double ender and the other participant's not very sophisticated, and they leave for the weekend and they don't upload it, and you're waiting for it. Like, it'd be much easier if it went to the cloud. I'm hoping that's how they decide to do it, but I have no idea what they're going to do.
What's a double ender?
It's a radio or television description of a way they used to sort of, you might have like really sketchy satellite or something. Each party records the interview at their side locally, and then that way you have a really high quality copy of the interview, and then you edit it together later from the two high quality.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like this just being another comparison is, if I own the Rode Go 2 wireless microphones, right, and the receivers on my camera, and it's plugged, its output's plugged into the camera, and the camera's doing a local record from the receiver. But one or both of those transmitters that are connected to the talent, they're both recording locally also, just in case something goes awry, right? And so you just get it on both ends. Yeah, I would think that, them announcing, double enders on the recording is really, I would guess that it's their way of saying, we're going to make this a better experience, because we already know you can grant local recording privileges to somebody in the meeting and they can record locally, but then they have to deliver it. I would guess that, the whole reason they're doing it and talking about it is to improve that, which I would say it will, if you, the host, have created that double-ended config, that remote local record should in fact end up, in your cloud account as a result. It wouldn't make sense if it didn't. So,
Guys,
question is does it end up in both? Is there one local and in the cloud? Yeah, it's hard to tell. Sandy's team's developing it, I think. No, you were unmuted. I just kept talking over you. Sorry, Mike.
No issue. I was checking and make sure my Stream Deck wasn't taking a crap on me. Just making sure. Did they say in the double ender? Did they actually say time code would be in there, or did they?
No, I don't think they said.
That would be ultimate too, as Frank knows.
Yeah. Who knows, right?
But everything would line up on the time.
They do have optimized for editing now. For edit, your cloud recording, you can optimize it for editing. So I think they would take that into consideration with time code, because the people who are
that's only a GOP setting, isn't it, Frank? Are they just making that a shorter GOP?
But the group of pictures. But I think it's also, you can also have time code. But I think anyone who wants a double ender is probably going to want time code. So there's got to be some way to sync it up, right? But who knows? I don't know. Until they release it, who knows?
Time code.
What was that last kind of car?
Well, I'm trying to think through. So if it's tied to satellite time, then it would. As long as it's tied to satellite time, it works. If it's tied to local time, it could be off.
Yeah, it'd probably be UTC would be my thought, because that would be the easiest for the servers.
But whatever, it's tied to a single reference, single cloud reference, not the local reference.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise they won't match because of propagation delay.
Right. Yeah. And the ultimate for me too would be for them, if they actually, when you do have the recording, that, it'd be nice little, let's say XML file of sorts, that would actually similar to the Blackmagic world where everything's, when you have your ISO recording in the Blackmagic world, you could actually bring that into DaVinci and it brings the timeline and everything in. That would be nice. I know I'm pushing my luck, but you never.
I've found, I haven't done double enders, but certainly trying to sync cloud recordings is always problematic because of the varying data rates and all. I've never had a true double ender to try to go ahead and sync that up.
Right. Frank, did they mention people would it be a double ender in the cloud or a double ender per machine, like per
They didn't
client,
say.
locally?
At least I don't recall them getting into those kind of specifics.
Announcement. it was Zoomtopia, some features, are farther along when they announce them, and some features are not far along when you announce them, right? And so they'll talk, and they can't really talk about all the details, without getting in trouble. So because anything they talk about 6 months ago that doesn't end up getting released and people are disappointed, it's just not
and they downsize. So I mean, who knows what the timelines are for projects? When they laid off 15 or whatever 1,500 people or something.
Well, the president left today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
No, not by his choice, as I read.
They're still releasing a lot of new releases every month though, but some of those were probably pretty close to being feature complete before they laid people off. I wonder how stacked the pipeline will be going forward when they empty the shelves. Will they have as much of a juggernaut of new releases, or will it slow down a bit?
Yeah. Hey, let me put a end on this for the YouTube archives, and you can stay in the meeting and we can continue to chat. Be right back.
Guys, was it me or was the audio